Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the international webinar series on holistic health, well-being, and sustainable development 2025, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 77 years of independence and United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030 and Viksit Bharat at 2047 as part of awareness and campaigns in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences and Wellbeing. Before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's commemorations. Today, we are celebrating International Day of Friendship on 30th July. Every year, actions to promote a culture of peace on this day, foster a culture of peace through education, promote sustainable economic and social development, promote respect for all human beings, ensure equality between women and men, foster democratic participation, advance understanding, tolerance, and solidarity, support participatory communication and the free flow of information and knowledge, promote international peace and security. So, in a time when the noise of division grows louder, fueled by wars, conflicts, inequality, and fear, friendship feels almost radical in its simplicity. It doesn't arrive with fanfare or policy, it doesn't need speeches or signatures. It begins with something quieter, a conversation, shared moment, a willingness to see one another not as strangers, but as fellow travelers through the human experience. In this year's observance of the International Day of Friendship, we are reminded that real peace is forged not only in negotiation halls or by writing into treaties, it's built thread by thread in the trust we extend to one another in daily life. Friendship, especially among young people, holds a special kind of power. It can cross language, faiths, and histories that might otherwise divide us. It invites us to listen before we judge, to stay when it is easier to walk away, and be nurtured across cultures and communities. Friendship becomes more than a bond, it becomes a blueprint for reconciliation. It teaches us that understanding isn't a great achievement, it's a habit, a practice, a way of moving through the world that says your well being matters to me too. So this year, As the world faces profound ruptures between nations within the societies, even within the families, the call to friendship is not sentimental. It's essential. It's about reaching across what breaks us and daring to believe in something better. It's a call to imagine a future where difference doesn't mean distance, where trust is stronger than fear. Through friendship, we don't just cope up with the world as it is, we begin to shape the world as it could be. So, the International Day of Friendship was proclaimed in 2011 by the UN General Assembly with the idea that friendship between peoples, countries, and cultures and individuals can inspire peace efforts and build bridges between communities. The resolution places emphasis on involving young people as future leaders in community activities that include different cultures and promote international understanding and respect for diversity. To mark the International Day of Friendship, the UN encourages governments, international organizations, and civil society groups to hold events, activities, and initiatives that contribute to the efforts of internal community towards promoting a dialogue among civilizations, solidarity, mutual understanding, and reconciliation. The International Day of Friendship is an initiative that follows on the proposal made by UNESCO defining the culture of peace as a set of values, attitudes, and behaviors that reject violence and endeavor prevent conflicts by addressing their root causes with a view to solving problems. It was then adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1997. So today is also commemorated as World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, which is human trafficking, which is an organized crime. So end the exploitation. 74% of the traffickers operate within the organized crime groups. In 2022, victims from 162 nationalities were trafficked to 128 different countries. About 70% of those investigated, prosecuted, and convicted for trafficking in 2022 were men. African victims were most widely trafficked group. They account for 31% of cross-border traffic flows. So human trafficking continues to be a global threat driven by organized crime. More and more victims are being trafficked every year across greater distances with greater violence for longer periods for the time and for great profit. From 2020 to 2023, there were more than 2 lakh detected victims globally, which is just the tip of iceberg. The actual number of unreported cases is believed to be slightly higher. Organized criminal networks are driving the victimization and exploitation using migration flows, global supply chains, legal and economic loopholes, and digital platforms to facilitate cross border trafficking on a massive scale. They profit from the forced labor, sexual exploitation, and coercion into criminal activities such as online scams and drug smuggling. Despite some progress, criminal justice responses fall short in trafficking, this rapidly evolving crime. To end human trafficking, law enforcement must enforce strict laws, conduct proactive investigations, strengthen cross border cooperation, target criminal finances, and leverage technology to identify and dismantle trafficking networks. Ensuring justice for survivors requires holding perpetrators accountable and providing a victim centered approach to protection, support, and access to justice. So, ensuring justice for survivors requires holding perpetrators accountable and providing a victim centered approach to protection, support, and access to justice. This year's campaign highlights the vital role of enforcement and the criminal justice system in dismantling organized trafficking networks while ensuring a victim centered approach. We particularly encourage law enforcement agencies, including police departments, border security, international agencies, and specialized task forces, to take an active role by utilizing online platforms and conducting in person outreach at high traffic areas such as transportation hubs. This way, we can reach a wide audience, raise public awareness, and promote reporting channels for suspected trafficking cases. Your active involvement bridges the gap between the campaign's global reach and local realities, ensuring it effectively connects with those impacted by human trafficking. Human traffickers have become adept at using internet platforms, using social media channels, online marketplace sites, and freestanding web pages to recruit victims and attract clients. So the blue heart symbol represents solidarity with the victims and the cold heartedness of those who buy and sell their fellow beings. How we can get involved? Share, like, and comment in the social media messages for the World Day hash end human trafficking. Donate to the United Nations Voluntary Trust Fund for victims of human trafficking, which provides on the ground assistance and protection to victims of trafficking. Join the Blue Heart community to see more ideas on how to support the campaign. Trafficking in persons is a serious crime and a grave violation of human rights. Every year, thousands of men and women and children fall into the hands of traffickers in their own countries and abroad. Almost every country in the world is affected by trafficking, whether as a country of origin, transit, or destination for victims. UNODC, as guardian of United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, UNTOC, and the protocols thereto, assist states in their efforts to implement the protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons. Trafficking in persons protocol. The protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons defines trafficking in persons as a recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of a threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or deceiving of the payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over other person for the purpose of exploitation. So exploitation shall include at a minimum the exploitation of the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor, or services, slavery, or practices similar to slavery, servitude, or the removal or of organs. So the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in its resolution 68 by 192. The 2024 edition of the Global Report on Trafficking in Persons provide a snapshot of the trafficking patterns and flows at global, regional, and national levels. It covered 156 countries and provide an overview of the response to the trafficking in persons by analyzing trafficking cases detected between 2019 and 2023. A major focus of this edition of the report is on the trends of detections and convictions that show the changes compared to historical trends since UNODC started to collect data in 2003 and following the COVID-19 pandemic. Today is also commemorated as World Snorkeling Day on July 30 of every year. Snorkeling is the practice of swimming through the water while equipped with a diving mask, a shaped breathing tube called snorkel, and usually swim fins. It requires a little effort as long as one knows how to swim, as you don't need training or any complicated equipment, like in the case of scuba diving. So it remains a very popular activity for people of all ages, especially tourists in tropical resorts that wish to see aquatic life from up close. It is also used by scuba divers when on the surface in underwater sports like underwater hockey and underwater rugby as part of water based searches conducted by the search and rescue teams. So, the origins of the snorkel aren't clear, though it is there since long time. Aristotle in the West referred to the divers using instruments for respiration resembling the elephant's trunk in the text parts of animals. Evidence suggests that the sea sponge farmers in Crete used hollowed out reeds to submerge and retrieve natural sponges for use in trade and commerce 5,000 years ago, and two even Leonardo da Vinci drew designs for a very similar underwater breathing device. So Jacques Somakel used a swimmer's breathing tube and mask for the first time in 1992 on the beach of La Croix-Valme, and he exhibited them at the International Nautical Show in 1931. Barnaby Garden filed the first patent application for a swimming breathing tube on December 9, 1929. Joseph L. Belcher submits a patent application for another one on July 30, 1932. And despite being the second person to do so, World Snorkeling Day is commemorated on the date in the years that followed. Many other patents for comparable devices were filed all around the world. So the first use of snorkel was in November 1950 when the Honolulu Sporting Goods Co. introduced a swim pipe urging children and adults to try the human version of the submarine snorkel and be like a fish, likely referring to the German words snorkel that originally referred to an air intake that was used to supply air to the diesel engines of U-boats in the first issue of the Skin Diver magazine in December 1951. Every advertisement uses the word snorkelers to refer to swimmers' breathing tubes. In December 1969, the British Standards Institution published a British Standard BS 4532 entitled Specification for Snorkelers and Face Masks. This was the first national standard on snorkels. This British standard set different maximum and minimum snorkel dimensions for adult and child users, specific materials and design features for tubes and mouthpieces that requires a warning label and a set of instructions to be enclosed with each snorkel. Today is also commemorated as Vanuatu Independence in Vanuatu, which is celebrated on July 30 every year by the Republic of Vanuatu. This commemorates Vanuatu's independence from the joint rule of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and France, which occurred on July 30, 1980, formerly called New Hebrides. Vanuatu has labored under the rule of both European powers for about 74 years and began to advocate for independence during 1970s. The November 1979 elections produced Prime Minister Walter Linney, and independence was then scheduled for July 30, 1980, after which the Anglo-French troops finally withdrew from Vanuatu. Today is also commemorated as Share a Hug Day in US, which is celebrated every year in the on July 30. The idea behind this is to let people close to you know that you love and appreciate them by hugging them if it is culturally and personally accepted and appropriate. So, hugs are especially beneficial for people that are feeling down, as being surrounded by the arms of another person and the warmth of their body communicates a sense of empathy, security, and solidarity. Any time is a great time to share a hug with someone willing to receive or give one. The creator of Share a Hug Day was Mike Brundrett. He used to be married to a he used to be married to a woman he had been in a relationship with for 19 years. And they had two sons on the afternoon of July 30, 2017. They were returning home from a campaigning trip. A transport truck hit them from behind while they were traveling. Brundit and his youngest son survived the tragedy, but his wife and the oldest son died instantly. Since then, Brandit and his son have mental issues and he is still recovering from back injuries. 1 year later, a few days before the first anniversary of the accident, he started thinking about ways to honor and remember his wife and son. He remembered how often he and his family would share hugs as a greeting, as a goodbye, or just to show their love. He remembered that many hugs shared with his friends after the accident. Thus, he decided to start a hug day to honor their lives. On July 30, 2018, he wrote a post on his Facebook profile. We have days of the year designated different things. I would like your help in starting National Share a Hug Day. July 30th is the anniversary of the loss of my son and wife, and I want to try to honor the love that we shared by starting something session. So I'm not sure how to get this going, but for now, I think word of mouth will work. So please go and hug someone today to help get this movement started. Today is also commemorated as Paperback Book Day in US. If you are an avid reader, you will know the joy that comes with reading paperback books and to celebrate this very joy. Paperback Book Day is commemorated on July 30. Books, both fiction and non-fiction, contain world of wonderment. They allow us to explore new insights into all matters of life, death, and beyond. By reading, we also become better at vocabulary and other linguistic skills. Books are also a great way to understand and develop emotional skills like empathy, knowing the countless benefits of paperback books, which include being able to easily carry them with you anywhere. Publishers opted for the much more cost friendly options of soft covers, softbacks over hardcovers, and hardbacks. Today is also commemorated as National Whistleblower Day in US, which is an important commemorative event for the protection and sanctity of US. Corruption and illegal activities can weaken and cripple any society or industry. Oftentimes, when such things go unreported and unnoticed, they will only continue to grow. Whistleblowing, which is the act of reporting or exposing illegal deeds to the authorities, it is therefore essential in protecting the public rights and the nation's sovereignty. After a revolutionary whistleblowing event in the 1700s, the American Congress passed a resolution to protect the involved whistleblowers. Since then, the day has been recognized and celebrated to encourage whistleblowers to come forward. On July 30, in 1778, where the American Revolution was taking place, the Continental Congress passed the first protection law for whistleblowers. The landmark legislation come after 10 whistleblowers exposed to a superior officer in the Continental Navy. Commodore S. Hopkins was committing grievous crimes against British prisoners. Upon learning of such acts, Lieutenant Richard Marvin, along with midshipman Samuel Shaw, reported Hopkins to the authorities. Marvin and Shaw's brave act is noted to be the first Whistle Act Whistleblowing Act in the United States. The National Whistleblower Center, established in 1988 by lawyer Stephen M. Korn, holds annual celebrations each year. Another example of notable whistleblowing event in the history of America happens to have been during President Richard Nixon's re-election. Mark Felt, who was a law enforcement officer at the Federal Bureau of Investigation from 1942 to 1973, aided Washington's Post journalist Bob Woodard and Carl Bernstein in investigating and exposing the Watergate scandal. Apart from governmental organizations, corruption also takes place in industries like trading, health services, and banking. And in such agencies, it is usually the employees and the customers who become the whistleblowers. For instance, the Public Health Service, in collaboration with the Tuskegee Institute, conducted a study on the corruption of health service professionals. It was revealed that the people were not given penicillin treatment, even when it became readily available. In another case, a police detective working in the NYPD raised the alarm when he realized corrupt activities were taking place in his department. It was the dream of founding fathers of America to see a country where whistleblowers are protected and encouraged to expose any corruption and illegal activities. Today is also commemorated as National Support Public Education Day in US. There's no doubt about the children are future of our country. A National Support Public Education Day on July 30 aims to raise awareness about this fact. Education is a basic and important right of all human beings. A nation can only hope to move forward in all aspects of life if its citizens are sufficiently educated and learn. By learning about the intricacies of science, technology, and social issues and commerce, people will be able to pinpoint which sectors need improvement and which can lead them to the most advantageous position on the world stage. And thanks to the hundreds of educational scholarships out available there. And more people of all backgrounds can have access to higher educational attainment. This is why we should strive to support public education by raising our voices for it. So the first National Support Public Education Day was commemorated in 2010. If we are to look at the history of formal schooling, many records state that Egypt may have been present in forming a school system during the reign of Mentuhotep II in 2000 BC. Schools were developed to educate rich and influential people's children. These peoples were all male and they only included royal families, ministerial staff, temple administrators, and physicians. Females, be it royal or otherwise, stayed at home to learn about familial and household duties. As the time passed, more and more people enrolled their children into schools, and this time females also had the opportunity to become pupils. One example of the earliest records of females going to school can be traced back to the early Islamic eras. Once Prophet Muhammad, the last prophet of Islam, started preaching, he ensured that females were given their due rights to education. He believed that an educated individual, male or female, can work to progress the society in sectors of science and technology and other areas of life. Today is also commemorated as National Father-in-Law Day in US. Parents bring you into the world, giving you life and raising you to be the person you are. They also do that for your spouse, the person of your dreams. Fathers play a truly unique role in that experience. That's why we celebrate National Father-in-Law Day every July 30. Although there are plenty of ways to celebrate your dad-in-law, the best way is to simply let him know you care. Today is also commemorated as National Cheesecake Day in US, which is creamiest and yummiest day held on July 30, where America samples and indulges in some of the most delicious cheesecakes ever. Cheese and cakes are beloved all over the world, but taken together, they attract a veritable cult following. Cheesecake is thought to have originated in ancient Greece, as evidenced by its earliest mention in Greek physician Agnes, a book on the art of making cheesecake. Since then, cheesecake has been passed down through the generations and entered into fabric of numerous cultures. So with this, we shall end today's commemorations. Thank you everyone for joining us in this celebration. See you all tomorrow at the same time with the same joining link. Take care. Good night.